Hi, welcome to Scooters. We're here today with the brand new Honda Ruckus. Just picked this one up. It's been sitting in a garage for a long time and needs some work. I think it probably needs a carb clean. It's running, but the battery's completely dead and it's a little bit gunky. It kind of stops and the engine cuts out when you stop at a light. So we're gonna pull the carb, drain the gas tank, replace the battery, and check all the fluids and do all that. So today what you're gonna need to do all this work is a ratchet set. You'll definitely need a 10 and an 8mm, or a 10 and a 12 rather, and maybe an extension piece for the ratchet. You'll need some compressed air. One of those keyboard cleaners will work, or if you have a compressor, you get one of those. Small wrench, screwdriver, possibly a clamp for the gas lines, carburetor cleaner. If you have chemical dip, that'll work. Otherwise, carburetor cleaner is fine. Definitely safety glasses and gloves when you're doing that. This is a carburetor tool where you can poke out the different jets in your needle jet and clean them. And then we've got the extra battery here as well. All right, let's get started. So first thing you want to do is drain the gas out of this thing.
So right now you're just making sure that that pump doesn't have anything nasty.
Yeah, because I think the last thing I pumped was like antifreeze. So you don't want this to get in your gas tank.
So this will get most of the gas, right? Not all of it?
Yeah, so see if you can like move it around and catch it. So you have to like angle it. All right, now that we got as much of the old gas out as we could, we're gonna start taking off this plastic cover that is going over the engine part. So we're trying to get to this carburetor down in that section. It's just directly below this plastic cover. I don't think we're gonna have to take off the seat, but we might. Looks like we might have just enough clearance not to do the seat. Oh, looks like it's all one piece.
All the way down?
Tell you what, we're just gonna pull this off too. Okay. So that way we can get to the gas tank. Anyway. All right, so I don't know if you need to do this, but we decided it would be much easier just to take off the seat and put this over to the side, just so you can have better access, because it looks like this plastic piece won't come off without getting to the seat. You probably have enough room to get to this without taking the seat off, but for the purposes of filming, I think we can get a better angle. Since we have to replace the battery anyway, we're gonna go ahead and just take the battery box cover off right now too. So to get the battery box off, you just want to undo 2 screws on the side, and then there's 2 screws on the bottom, 2 screws on each side here. Alright, so this gives us access to the battery compartment. To get the battery off, it looks like we need to undo this other 10mm or 12mm nut. So this piece is a second-hand, well, it's an add-on. It's a battery tender. It's highly recommended if you have a bike to just go ahead and add a tender like this. That way when it's parked in your garage, you can keep the battery nice and charged, especially for bikes like this that have dual headlights. Very important. Alright, so now that we've got the new battery installed, we haven't had the opportunity to check the electronics with the new battery in yet, so we'll go ahead and test out the starter and all the signals and everything and make sure that that's all working before we seal this back up. Yep, so all the electronics work perfect. We'll go ahead and bolt the battery back on and then take the rest of the cover off here for access to the carburetor. So now we've got that out of the way. We're gonna pull this plastic cover off, hopefully. So there's 2 screws on the back side of this that are holding it on. That's what it is. Alright, so now we've got the full cover off. You can see we could get access now a little bit easier to this tank. Kind of tilt all the gas to one corner, be able to empty it better that way. But first we're going to get to the carburetor. So what you want to do initially is basically take off all of the plugs that you can see going into the carburetor, being very careful not to damage any of the wiring. So for most of this you can get it out with just a simple screwdriver. So we'll get the air intake first. That'll let us pull that off and it'll have a little more room to maneuver everything. This is the electronic choke control. Now we will get the connection piece to the manifold undone. Alright, so those were really torqued, or they might have had Loctite on them, but those are really hard to get off, harder than I've ever seen. But got them free, and we are gonna pull this off the manifold now. So this should just pop out. I guess the newer engines have these little clips here. I haven't seen this in any of the older ones. That'll just pop out with a compression clip. Alright, so now you've got 2 fuel lines and then a fuel drain line on the bottom of the carb. First we're going to take off the cable here. So to do that you'll need your small wrench. So now that that's off, may not be a big deal, you don't necessarily need this, but if you have hose clamps, it's always good because there's usually gas in these lines. You can get these at Harbor Freight for less than 10 bucks for a set. And try and find the one that's going to the gas. Alright, so be careful because the carb is going to be leaking. It's probably full of fuel. When you tip it over, it'll leak fuel inside the engine bay. Okay, so once you have your carburetor off, now we got to start pulling the carburetor apart. Now for this, there's a lot of small pieces, so you want to make sure you have an area to put everything where you're not going to lose it. So the first thing you'll want to take off is the float bowl. Make sure you try and drain as much of the gas out as you can. Should be really careful not to strip these. And you can see there's markings where they set the factory torque and then line it up with the specific screw. So if you can, it's good to keep the same screws in the same holes. Alright, so you want to inspect all your gaskets and make sure that those look good. This one looks pretty good. There's no obvious gunk in here. So to get this out, you just need to poke that little part there, slide that through, and you can lift up the float. See, that's where the gas is, and it knocks the float up and basically releases gas as the float, or stops the gas as the float comes up to the top. So these are your needle jets. Now we're going to take off this side here. Alright, so again, inspect this, make sure there's no tears or rips and everything looks good. This all looks like it's in very good condition. Really nothing too obvious on here that would suggest that there's carb issues. I mean, there's a little bit of gunk in there, but we'll see what the jets look like. So now we're going to pull the jets off. So this, I think, is the slow jet or the idle jet. Doesn't look to be in too bad shape, but you can kind of see right there that might be a little bit of gunk. So if one of these holes are gunked up at all, I mean, that's obviously going to restrict gas and cause some issues. So we'll set that aside. Alright, now when you take this one out, you want to make a special note on the inner piece which direction it comes out. So that's the top, but then this inner part's going to slide out. Should anyway, sometimes you have to poke it from the top. So the needle jet, when you pull on the accelerator, this needle will pick up and then it releases gas through this jet system, and it doesn't want to come out. Alright, I'm going to need a poking tool. So it basically goes in this way. So remember, that's the in way. It will fit, a lot of these will fit the other way, so make sure you remember. So there right away you can kind of see, you know, there's some sort of sludge or something. That could have just been dirt when it fell, I guess. But yeah, so no obvious signs of any damage or clogging, but it's a little bit discolored. So normally I would take the whole carburetor, take off all the plastic components and take up all the rubber things, and then dunk this whole thing in the carb cleaner solution. In this case, since it's such a new bike and there's no obvious signs of gunk here, I'm not going to do that part, but I am going to blow the jets out with carb cleaner. Definitely want to have safety glasses, and you want this or just some needles, because each one of these corresponds to the size in each one of these carb jets. So blow through, kind of dissolve all the stuff that's inside there. So you can kind of poke the end and then see which jets are working. Again, no obvious issues. So now we'll go through and poke each one out so we know they're not clogged. And this has kind of a little file type thing on the side, so it's actually filing out the insides of the holes and getting all the gunk from the inside, so they're not blocked. That one felt like there was a little blockage. So I like to hit every hole from both sides just to be safe. And you'll actually notice once you see these after you do it, the holes will actually look a little bit bigger because there's just some buildup right around the rings. So this is pulling a lot of the stuff out with the file and then knocking a lot of the junk on the inside of this. So we'll, after we're done filing each one, we'll just blow it through again, both ways. So yeah, it looks much cleaner. So we'll set that to the side right now. You definitely want to have compressed air and blow these things clean. If they're not, if you put it back in with carb cleaner, I think that's really bad. So you definitely want to blow them out or let them sit for a long time before you put them back in. Alright, so both of those are good to go. Might want to just blow the inside of that out to get any of the junk off. Try to avoid the gasket. Just blow out the inside of this to be safe. Kind of blow through all the jetways. Clear everything out. So that looks like it's pretty clear. Now we're gonna bring this through to our compressed air. Throw these back in, remembering the way they went. That one went that way. Alright, that one drops in like that. So we'll put the float back on, make sure the needle drops down into that thing. Put this cross holder back in. And we'll drop this back on. Alright, so with this, just shoot the needle off, make sure that's totally clean. So you want to make sure the needle is lined up with the hole. Drop that in. Now, you want to make sure that the rubber part is fully seated in this little channel all the way around. Sometimes takes a little bit of patience. Alright, now that that's good, drop in spring. So you always want to take a picture before you pull the carb apart, because I don't remember if this went that way now. Looks like it must have gone this way. Addie, come here. Come here. All right, so the carb is back together. Now we'll reinstall it in reverse order of how we took it apart. So we'll do all the gas lines first. This will be the overflow line. For this little needle, always blow that off before you put that back in. So before you add this on, you usually want to clamp this through to this through the loop first, because it makes it easier than trying to do the loop part second.
Hey, Addie. What are you doing out here?
This is your trusty cameraman. Hope you're enjoying this video. If you like, please click subscribe at the bottom at the end. Thank you.
So there's some weird clip things that are on the front. Alright, so this is a super tricky part. There's a little metal bracket that slides behind the front frame, and then it comes down into this plastic piece, and that's the backer where this white front part connects to it. So get all that lined up, make sure you can see all the screw holes everywhere. It'll get everything finger tight before we add everything back on.
Dude, look at that.
I can already tell difference.